Alright guys, what's up? Suicide King 08 here for StumpTheSpread.com Poker. And in this video I'm gonna cover the basics, or you know, the real meat and potatoes of your high limit Omaha high-low game. It's definitely my favorite game out there right now. You get a lot of fish who don't know what they're doing, and it's just an awesome game right now. So let's get into this video. It's gonna deal with how we're gonna value our pre-flop hands, which is pretty difficult in PLO8, just because the hand equities run really close, and not only that, but there's going to be situations where you're not going to play a hand, or due to your position or whatever, you're gonna play a hand differently, and so we're just going to try to touch on that. So let's just get this going. PLO8, evaluating starting hands. Poker strategy from StumpTheSpread.com. You all can read. I don't know why I just read that to you, but I would assume if you're playing poker you can read. Alright, so you guys have heard this information before. If you're playing a split pot game, you play to scoop, alright? You play to win. You don't play to, get half the pot. It's just a losing concept, and this is going to be the biggest piece of information I can give you. Like, until you understand this, until you stop getting your money in with only, like, the nut low on the river, like, you're going to lose money. And, so if this is a foreign concept to you, just stop and just read this a million times and listen to this little segment a million times until it finally clicks, and then move on. But anyway, when you're playing for half the pot, the odds are really nasty against you. The half pot implied odds are just terribly ugly. I'm not really going to get into what they are and stuff because this is a really basic video, but just know that drawing at half the pot is just terrible in this game, because you're going to get quartered. Like in Limit 08, it's not that bad because getting quartered doesn't suck nearly as bad in Limit 08 than it does in a big bet game like Pot Limit 08. Like, you lose maybe a few extra bets in Limit 08, but in the big bet game, you're going to like lose a quarter of your stack. I mean, like 3/4 of your stack every time. So it just hurts way more. So yeah, and I guess to sum it up, the biggest advice right here is avoid half pot spew. Like, if you're faced with a river raise for, you only have half the pot locked up and you have no high, just fold right there. Don't spew. Don't spew for half the pot. Just terrible idea. Position, you guys should all know it. I'm gonna assume you're coming from a no limit hold'em or an Omaha high background, and you know how important position is. It's super crucial in this game. Your hand ranges are gonna really depend on position. And we'll get into that a little later, but just touching on that. So with high hands in PLO8, they've got a little value, way more than in Limit 08, but not even close to as much as in PLO high. Big pairs are not the nuts. I see a lot of guys, like especially at the lower limits, I see a lot of guys walk in here and they have like King King, Jack 9, and they're just like pot every street. And then they're like, how did I lose? I had kings. This is ridiculous. So just know that big pairs are definitely not the nuts here in this game, not even close. Your Broadway wraps are good. Like I said, not as good as in PLO high. Better than in Limit, again. But the high hands go down immensely in value whenever there's a low possible. Even when only two low cards flop, like, your high hand is just garbage, because the equity you have in the hand is just down to like absolutely nothing. Like, it's sick. And high hands only are going to get you into a lot of quartering spots where you're going to be the one getting quartered, where someone's going to have, the same nut high that you have and they have the low. So you really just got to proceed with caution when you're playing high hands. And if you're just starting out in PLO8, I would almost recommend not even playing any high hands. It's not going to hurt you at all to fold. So, and avoid middle cards. These are like the death of PLO8. 7, 8, 9, 10 is no good here. PLO players, they love their wraps. They love their 7, 8, 9, 10s double suited. And here it's just a piece of shit. Like, you're never going to want to play this ever. You're not going to make the nut high. You're not going to make the nut low. It's just, we're playing to scoop. And with playing these middle cards, especially 9s, are just going to make it incredibly difficult to scoop the pot with. So just be aware of middle cards. Don't play them. And we want to play 4 cards. Omaha High-Low allows you to play all 4 cards. So make sure you have a hand that has all four. Don't have like an ace deuce three. Well, no, that's a bad example because you're always gonna play that. I guess don't have like a deuce four 9 8. Like that's a piece of junk. Or like a I don't know. I don't know. Just make sure you have hands that work well together. All right. It's okay to fold. It's always okay to fold in this game. You know, you're gonna be playing like 25-30% of the hands no matter what. Like, so there's no reason to play extra hands. Like, you almost want to be able to think of a reason to fold and be like, yeah, I'm gonna fold this hand because you're gonna be playing enough. Like in Hold'em, you might play, if you're a tag, you might play like 17% at most. But in PLO8, like I said, you're gonna play 25, 30, maybe a little more. So just folding's okay. You know, if you think the spot's a little marginal, go ahead and fold. No big deal. And being suited. In Hold'em, being suited isn't the biggest deal in the world. Like, oh, ooh, I'm suited, adds an extra maybe percent pre-flop. But in PLO8, the hand ranges are pretty close pre-flop, no matter what 2 cards you have or 4 cards you have. So when you're suited, it actually gives you way more increased pre-flop equity, and it's actually pretty significant that it helps you. So you know, an ace deuce 3-6 is enough better when it's suited that you know you'd want to think that it's definitely a better hand. So just be aware of that. It's gonna add a bunch of backdoor outs for you. That's about all I got to say about that. Just be aware. And so you want to be thinking about, you know, what kind of flop do you want to have? Do you want to have a multi-way or heads-up pot? You know, do you want to, like in late position, I usually like to get the pot heads up, and in out position, keep it multi-way. And you know, what kind of pot you want to play depends really on your hand strength and also your position. Low cards such as ace deuce 3-4 or ace deuce 3-6, they play really well multi-way against like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players, whatever. While ace deuce king king, you might want to get that heads up, so that way your king king is going to play way better against one opponent than it's going to against, you know, 6. And if you're just starting out in PLO8, you might want to start, you know, limping early, even with the ace deuce king king, and raising late. That usually works out well. It avoids a lot of trouble. I guess we're gonna get into. Let me look at my notes real fast. All right, yeah, never mind. I'll hit it later. So here's a pre-flop question that you always want to think when you're playing. Like, you know, maybe you limp in and you know action's still gonna go. No matter what, you want to think, you know, what do you want to flop? What don't you want to flop? Like, I need an ace here. I don't need an ace here. I would hate to see an ace here. Do you want a low board or a high board? Dream flops versus nightmare flops. Like, just think about what would the dream flop be? What would be the best flop you could have? And just kind of, you know, play fit or fold in that aspect, especially in multi-way pots. Just play fit or fold. No big deal. But yeah, definitely ask this to yourself. It's a small thing, but it's really going to help you in the long run. You can make faster decisions, you'll make better decisions, it'll help when you're multi-tabling. It's a really small thing, but it's going to help you out a ton if you just think about this real quick. Pre-flop play versus post-flop play. This is a pre-flop video, but I'm just going to hit it a little bit. Because, like, if you were to data mine the top 50 PLO8 players in the world, you would see the pre-flop play being, like, totally different. Like, in Hold'em, you'd see, you know, kind of the same stuff, like, wow, they raised with 8-4 offsuit here, but, you know, this guy raised with, you know, 9-6 offsuit here. Well, whatever, that's fine. They're still raising a lot. But, like, in PLO8, you'll see that there's, like, people who limp every hand, there's people who raise every hand, there's people who 4-bet pre-flop with, like, garbage, and, like, there's no really set style. Like, you can play really loose and really passive, you can play really aggressive pre-flop, and it really doesn't make too much of a difference, honestly, in PLO8. The key to success is going to be your post-flop play. You might have heard that PLO8 is a post-flop game, and it really is. That's where the real people who are good at this game will shine. And that's why No Limit Omaha High-Low is so tough to play. Well, it's not tough, it's just like, it's more like a pain in the ass. Because, like, you see people just throwing in, you know, their whole stack pre-flop, you know, it's like, it went limp, 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 and they just shove it in with, like, ace, deuce, king, queen. And they get called by, like, ace 3, 8, 8. And they're like,